So it's October of 2025 and Warhammer 3 is currently getting a massive influx of negative reviews, which I hope I've contributed towards. And it seems like we've just not progressed here. Things have not gotten any better than they were 2 years ago. You would almost be tempted to say Creative Assembly haven't learned, but why would you expect them to learn anything? Like, what is there to even learn? They are just a company trying to make money by milking DLC from an audience that's willing to put up with that. So what is it that they're supposed to learn here? How to walk that narrow line more effectively so that the anger doesn't reach a tipping point that causes negative reviews to start to accumulate en masse on the eve of a new DLC dropping, which is going to have its sales affected by negative reviews, or how better to manipulate YouTubers so that they never precipitate these kinds of coordinated collective actions at their expense. Like, what is it that you're actually saying that they're supposed to learn? Are you saying that they're supposed to learn how to make better games? How would they learn that when you're just buying the DLCs instead of the good games? Like, you haven't said, I don't want DLCs, I want good games. You haven't said, I want a game that isn't buggy, because they are releasing new DLCs even when the game has been bugged for years. So I kind of just don't get that way of looking at this. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we already understand what causes these bugs. So let's have a look at some of these reviews and see what the actual problem is. Currently, the Lizardmen AI is broken and will not move at all. Yep. Imagine having 6 months between bug fixes and needing Legend to respond before doing anything. Do better. Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation that we've got. Like, you do have a trickle of reviews that come in that complain about this problem, but it seems like people put up with it until a YouTuber that isn't a complete fucking shill is willing to actually say something about it and motivate people to leave negative reviews. And then people actually start to leave negative reviews. Like, they just don't bother until then. You know, it's a bit strange. A game series that is getting paid content every few months shouldn't have bugs that are there for years. Add bad communication and new game breaking bugs, and I just can't anymore. I had so much fun with this game, but CA needs to get their shit together. CA are more focused on pumping out DLCs than fixing the game. I really enjoyed the game, and once I would have said that the game and all the DLC was worth buying. 1,300 hours. CA have clearly given up on the game. Pathetic communication with the community, way too long between updates and DLC, bugs and AI fixes that persist even 3 years later. See what I mean? Like, people just keep buying DLC instead of making them fix the game. And if that demand for DLC despite brokenness wasn't there, they wouldn't make DLC. See from my leaks 2 years ago, I had a section where it was describing how they have a team that's dedicated to improving tools, but that team gets pulled off and they get put on the DLCs. So they have a resource that's actually meant for improving the tools. So, see these leaks from 2023? They not only explain why this stuff happens, but they say what to do about it. And it shouldn't really take YouTubers to have to point out both of these. And it definitely shouldn't need to get pointed out every time something like this happens, like every year. Every single time there's an annual shit show from this developer, it shouldn't be required to have to repeat this or reframe it and reapply it. But this is the first scandal like this since those leaks occurred. So it's basically like we're seeing this happening in real time, seeing it in action. Like, these leaks predicted that this would happen, essentially. So, yeah, I'm going to get to the part that's relevant to this. Immense tech debt and code creaking at the seams is exactly right. I keep thinking it's going to reach a point of critical mass, but I'm still waiting. On Total War, there are the game teams, and then there's a couple of non-game teams like tools and rendering, but they're seen as being an emergency resource or something. Inevitably, every game gets busy towards the end, so people from these other teams get pulled in to help out. With all these projects on the go, there's almost always one of them that needs extra help. From what I hear, that's exactly what happens with the team tasked with clearing up the engine too. So CES says they'll deal with the tech debt and tools after every game, even setting up a team to ostensibly do that, but then doesn't actually use them to do that job most of the time. Yeah, and there's another part where someone explains how it's really hard to even improve, fix bugs. Like, the tech debt is so bad that it's a miracle the game even works at all. The Total War engine doesn't have tech debt. It is tech debt. Whenever any effort is put into making improvements to the engine for the long term, anyone working on that gets pulled back onto the next shipping product to make short-term hacks to get it to hit its deadlines. Warhammer 1 was based on the Rome 2 engine. Then it had to cope with 2 sequels, 2 new PC storefronts, Epic and Microsoft, that have multiplayer crossplay with Steam, a new live services backend, and Immortal Empires that somehow combines all 3 games in one. It is a miracle the whole thing works at all, and it's a testament to the skill and persistence of the Total War programmers that keep the whole show on the road. Warhammer 3 now limps on with all this legacy, making any updates, new content, or bug fixes extremely difficult to produce. Yeah, so there's a team of people in the fucking engine room right now trying to make this DLC, and the game has broken in the midst of that, so the entire factions don't work. I think it's 3 whole factions. So it's like you're expected to be buying a fucking DLC at the end of this month, right? Which is what a faction leader, I hate these terms that apply only to Warhammer shit. Like, they would say something like a lord for a race, something like that. Like, I'm not even sure about that, but I would just say a new faction leader for a faction. So there's like the game, each DLC picks 3 random factions, and it gives them a new faction leader, a new character, and you have sub-faction leaders basically for each faction with all these DLCs, and they just add new faction leaders and plop them down somewhere. So you're expected to buy a DLC that has 3 new faction leaders in it, for a different faction each. Meanwhile, there are 3 factions that are broken in the game. Like, you've already paid for these, by the way, and they don't work right now. Like, the AI version of it just doesn't work. It's ridiculous. Like, look at how much shit there is here. So this is discounted by 50 or 39%, and it still comes out at about 140 quid. So double and add some to that, I think. Double that. Yeah, so that's gonna, like, see if you were to have bought that at its original price, all of it, I think you would have spent like 600 or 800 quid. Rome 1, Medieval 2, Shogun 2 even. Shogun 2 suffer from this somewhat, but especially Rome and Mid 2, you're looking at a game for about 60 or 70 quid or something. That's the whole game, and it gets patches that fix it, and that's all you need to do. And then you get a Kingdoms expansion or a Barbarian invasion, but now it's like you're spending maybe 10 times as much as that for a game that's going to reach its end of life and be broken. Yeah, so they only do this because they think it's going to be the most profitable way to proceed. And yeah, this explains why this happens, right? So I've explained why this happens here to an extent. I can imagine this largely still totally applies. And remember, these leakers, they spent a long time working hard to even get there, right? And then once they got there, they suffered at the company through all this crap that they're complaining about here. And then after they did all of that, they still had enough fight in them and enough courage to be willing to risk basically their professional careers to leak this stuff, hoping it would have some effect. What effect were they hoping? If not that we would actually pay attention to it and take it on board and act accordingly. It's clear that Creative Assembly have not taken this as actionable information, either from these people at the company or from the fans after these people leak it to the fans and then the fans complain about it. They've basically just ignored the fans. So as customers and as YouTubers that report on this, it hasn't been enough, because they've obviously decided they're still going to just keep buying the DLCs even if we totally ignore them. They have slowed down the DLCs, granted, but they've got one planned for the end of the month, despite the game being in this sorry state and the tech debt problem clearly still applying, because if it was a 2-minute fix, wouldn't they have done it? They just don't know how to do it, or they don't have enough resources to do it. It's not important. Getting the next DLC out is more important, so people have put up with this. They've kept putting up with it. We got the boilerplate PR statement bullshit, and people have been like, okay, I'll just keep buying the DLCs. So we had the massive price hike to rip people off. We had the boilerplate explanation from Rob that basically says, buy the DLC or we'll stop making it, tough titty. We had the mass banning on the forums. Burn them all! And then we had the right to discuss is a privilege, not an entitlement you earn. What was it by? Not an entitlement that you earn by playing the game. So we get all of those mask off moments, right? Where they just do 10 mask off events in a row, where they try and go full fucking dictator and psychopath mode on their own customers that keep the light on. And also their own marketers, and in the sense of YouTubers that do all their marketing for them basically at this point, because they want to outsource that as much as possible. You know, like, that's capitalism for you. Just outsource everything to have it be as cheap as possible. So they start attacking YouTubers that play the games, maybe throw in a fraudulent DMCA strike on one of them for good measure, make enemies out of all other ones that dare to even speak up. And then after all that, we would get some boilerplate. This is literally the word that my sources would use to describe their modus operandi. They would give a boilerplate apology. Like, you remember that, what was his name, Roger Collum or whatever, where the guy lied and said he is as much of a fan of the games as we are. And people like me and Legend laughed at that and said, alright, upload an easy campaign on Medieval 2 then, and let's see how embarrassing it is. That sort of thing. Like, play against us in multiplayer, I'll wear a blindfold, and you pick whatever factions we use, you know, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, it's so obvious, everyone knows when we say stuff like that it would just never happen for obvious reasons. So they do all that crap, they give fake boilerplate bullshit, and then people just forget about it. And then they just go right back to buying the DLC like nothing happened after a while, you know? And it's like we expect them to learn. It just seems silly. Don't waste the bravery and the fucking balls that these people had, like the actual spine, strength of character, to actually report on this, leak it out to YouTubers who can then talk about it forever. It's just a waste. Like, what the fuck? You shouldn't have bought any DLC until it was basically confirmed from some sort of a fucking rep at the studio that the company is fixing it. You know, like, that's how this whole thing should work. Fans that are considering buying DLC, hey, has the company changed so that they're now getting rid of the tech debt and bug fixes are more viable and future DLCs are not going to just be sold on top of a creaking, crumbling foundation where each new DLC breaks 2 previous DLCs? Yes or no? No? Alright, I'm not going to buy the next DLC. Change how you do stuff. We haven't had that, so we're right back here where we started, basically. 2 years later, and we're right back where we started. But the title of the video is going to be about reviews, so let's get to that part. Largely negative Steam reviews no longer have any impact, as CA will cry to Steam and they will get them to delete reviews they deem invalid. Steam has some control over those requests, so it's not all CA's way, but CA will 100% invest a resource, some poor shit in the community team, to come up with a list of invalid Steam reviews and process them to be removed. Although I would add, I heard a lot that CA is absolutely shit scared of bad reviews. That's a recurring theme that I heard. So even though there's the caveat here that CA have tools that they can use to minimise the effect of negative Steam reviews, especially big review bomb events, they still care a lot about Steam reviews. The impression I got is that it was like their kryptonite. If people leave bad reviews, it really bothers them. It bothers them a lot. Yeah, so I used the word minimise there, like they minimise, but I think I should have said mitigate, because that's all it can do. Like, see if there's an obvious review bomb where it's just people complaining about culture war bullshit that's irrelevant to the game. I think the tools they have are more useful in that case, but when the reviews are like this, like see this here? The game is currently broken. The campaign map optimization is still, I don't even know what I would have said, maybe just shit, and has been since launch. There are numerous game-breaking bugs that has existed from game one, and now with the newest update, the devs have broken 2 races AIs. I heard it was 3, so bad that they are just standing there now, and not menacingly. And it has been several weeks, no real communication, no all hands on deck kind of focused bug fixing. This company is far too comfortable with the track record it's having. Exactly, that's it. You've let them be comfortable. Breaking their promises left and right. It's high time we let them know not to take us for granted. Do not buy this game. Like, there you go, that's it. That's an actual legit, effective review that they cannot sweep under the rug with some excuse that they sent to Steam. That's what you want to do. And I actually left a guide on Legend's video where he's talking about this bug and helping to more widely publicise it, hoping something will get done. I'll read my comment here. It's got 700 upvotes, which if that had an even 1% conversion into negative reviews, I'm happy with that. That does the job. So I said, having talked to people that work in the brand department, the one thing they actually care about is the Steam reviews. Is there currently a broken mess that they are just not bothering to fix? If you've already left a review, go to it and click edit and do you recommend this game? Yes, no. Change it to no if you haven't already. Edit the top of the review to say, I changed this to a negative review because the game is currently broken due to XYZ. If they fix it, change your review back to positive. If they don't fix it, leave it negative until they do. Repeat every time the game breaks. From everything I've seen or heard, that's basically the only thing they care about and the only power you have over them if you've already bought the game. They care about public complaining on chats and forums largely because they think it'll affect Steam reviews. They used to pay people to sit flipping reviews on a case-by-case basis as part of their salaried job of the company. And Legend gave this a heart and that helped to boost it. And I got people replying to it saying that they did. So that is it right there. And by the way, see that flipping thing? I won't go into any real detail about that because I don't want to identify who I talked to, whether it was someone that actually did the flipping or someone that saw it happening or someone that instructed it to happen. But I'm pretty sure this is one of Rob Bartholomew's megalomaniacal ideas about dealing with reviews, because reviews are really important. As you know, Total War goes through Steam exclusively. There's no console Total War yet. They have that mobile thing for earlier games, but they rely extremely hard on Steam, and that was part of why they tried to do a Total War launcher. You might remember that, where if you launch one of the older games, it would bring you to a launcher. The plan originally, and I think this is another one of Rob's megalomaniacal bullshit money-grubbing ideas, was to eventually just move over to distributing Total War through their own in-house proprietary launcher. Not only would that get rid of the 30% or 20% or 40% cut that Steam takes, but that would mean that they would control perception around the game, and you know how much Creative Assembly loves to control perception, right down to fucking man-managing YouTubers. So that was the thinking there. So they were, for a while, flipping reviews. They would tell people, I think the way they would do it is they would have a team of people, they would give out some reviews to that team to flip. They would divide it up amongst those people, and they would have spreadsheets and track which reviews were successfully flipped and which weren't, and there would be quotas that they would have to meet. That's how pathetic this was. I don't think this was an original idea from Rob or whoever came up with it by any means. I think this is something that similar scummy money-grubbing companies have tried before, and Creative Assembly were just copying it for a while there. But it's one of those horrible fucking sweatshop slave ideas that didn't stick around for long. Probably would have been really unpopular in the studio, which is part of why I ended up hearing about it. But it really shows you how much they care about reviews. They care a lot. Think about it, just think about it, alright? I saw some Reddit comments that were quite switched on about this. I need to drink some water. I haven't done a talking like this in quite a while. Oh, I need to get back into the swing of this, man. Yeah, so just think about it. Whenever you're about to buy a DLC, Creative Assembly has spent money marketing the DLC, making you aware of it. You've ended up on this landing page for Warhammer 3. You scroll down to the DLC, but before you manage that, you see this big red, or if it's mixed, it's going to be like sort of orange or brown text that says mixed or mostly negative or overwhelmingly negative, and that is going to definitely affect your decision on whether you're going to buy the next DLC that keeps the lights on at the company. And that the quarterly performance of Creative Assembly as a subsidiary of Sega is measured. So they care a lot about this. See, when this switched to mixed, like forget mostly negative, when this hit mixed, a panic button was smashed in Creative Assembly and they were like, shit, we need to do something about this, because see this here being mostly positive, that tells you that that is an acceptable threshold. Like that's how they measure acceptability. If we can get away with keeping this at mostly positive long term, we are happy. If this goes to mixed, we are upset and we need to actually dedicate some resources to making the game better. Which DLCs do not do. I should emphasise, DLCs do not make the game better. That's one of the biggest misconceptions going with DLCs. They do not make games better. That's not what they're meant to do. They're meant to fulfill an ongoing model for extracting money. They're not for making games better. Bug fixes make games better because that's what people are asking for here. People are not currently asking for new DLC. They're just asking for fix game. So as I was saying, they arrive here, they see this, and they decide whether to buy. This makes them extremely likely to delay or forget about buying the game. Like, oh, I'll just not bother for now, it's not that important, it's not that urgent, I'll do something else. And then they just forget about it. Creative Assembly is going to have fucking charts about what the financial impact is on overwhelmingly positive, mostly positive, mixed, negative. Like, they'll be able to correlate all of this shit. Like, see if you're someone there that is just some sort of a marketer, what the fuck do you do all day if not make charts for this meaningless bullshit that has nothing to do with the games? Like, that should be your entire job. So you can bet they fucking have charts for this and they know what the financial cost is of a DLC dropping when this is at mostly negative, which it currently is, and which it's probably going to stay at when this new DLC arrives. And that's why this is so important. This means they're going to have less priority on pump out fucking shitty, infinitely duplicable, meaningless DLC and fix bugs, assign a team to actually fix all the bugs that people are complaining about, of which this tipping point AI bug is just the latest one. So we've got the proprietary in-house launcher, we've got the review flipping, but there is another one. The Pharaoh review reset, that's another clue. So Pharaoh launched in October 2023, no one cared, it got mixed reviews on its merits, and that really pissed them off because that means no one's going to buy this, no one cares about this, and no one ever will. So what did they do? They just relaunched it again. Look at this, they relaunched the game, and for a while its reviews, partially boosted by the Reddit bootlickers talking it up without even playing it, they're just talking up the game. And there are people there that do that. I've heard stories about some of them. You would not believe the stories I've heard about the people that dwell on the shithole subreddit, terminally online style, but they talk the game up, it gets reviews in the short term that boost it, and then the actual reviews trickle in, and look at that, right? Recent reviews 67% positive, recent reviews 56% positive, 64% positive, look at that. So the recent reviews for Pharaoh are the same as the long-term reviews for Pharaoh original. So what I'm getting to here is that they fucking relaunched the same game twice just to wipe these reviews and make them irrelevant so people would see this instead. Isn't that pathetic? I think I've said it before, but this should be illegal. But I'm kind of glad we have it here as a pretty clear example of how much these companies care about fucking Steam reviews. Adding this in later before I forget, but there was a Sega management meeting and it was all posted here. And if you go down to page 37, this is the June 18th, 2025 report. Go down to page 37, through all this bullshit, and you get a slide here that talks about initiatives at European studios, and it says here for Total War, tentpole sales of Total War increased, triggered by high review of downloadable content for Total War Warhammer 3 and Total War Pharaoh released in 2025. Turnaround of the brand. So even this confirms, this is from Sega, and this directly ties reviews to sales, and it even mentions the reviews of the DLCs themselves here, so that's another aspect. But the one persistent important thing to have proper, accurate, up-to-date reviews of is the base game. And this is as good as evidence gets in terms of the importance of reviews, straight from Sega themselves, who of course have to be transparent because they are publicly traded and their strategy has to be laid out publicly, which is what all of this is doing. So, yeah, no secrets here, totally open about it. Reviews matter a lot. If you actually want your game to get fixed, you have to use the review system. It's all you've got. I don't think we'll see large-scale, open and honest change with CA until the community as a whole comes together and realises what a poor state of affairs the company is in, rally behind the shared love and appreciation of what Total War was, and how it has strayed. I appreciate it's not a path that's likely to happen, but imagine how impactful it might be to have a staunch ally of CA suddenly turn against them, with criticism. Quite possibly apathy might end up being the best path. Clearly they don't want to listen or change. They're a corporate machine who will always throw out boilerplate nonsense to try and dismiss the majority of the current drama. Perhaps if we learn to not care, but to openly show that, perhaps they might witness a drop-off in purchases. Again, that's not exactly an easy path to convince people to follow. And I should mention that this part was written to me before Pharaoh launched, because it seems like apathy towards Pharaoh has been unprecedented. So there's new context that might have changed what Julius would have said in regards to this. This might actually be the best way forward, bearing in mind Pharaoh. But Julius went on, and this is the final paragraph of a very thorough answer. Expose. Perhaps bring attention to the fact that the brand team drives the concept of a game. They have presentation decks that they refer to as the Bible for that specific game that drive the whole life cycle of the product. They're used in pitches to Sega to secure funding. 9 out of 10 times, if there's a bad decision made that's received poorly by the community, it's driven by a marketing strategy. Intel modes in Warhammer, exclusive contracts with Epic, DLC price increases. Yeah, so that tells you everything you need to know. All you can really do, because we're not going to ignore the fact that we're still here, even talking about this and listen to what I'm saying right now, means that we're not part of the apathy approach. So the way to actually respond to a bad game that is broken is, surprise, surprise, reviews. And I told you exactly how to do it. Don't leave a bullshit empty review, leave a reason for it, and stick to what is actually wrong with the game. And then consider whether you're actually going to update it if they fix the game. I can imagine some people won't, and that'll serve as a future incentive to not let these things happen in the first place. Let's say whenever they break the game and 1,000 people leave a negative review, only half of them ever flip it again when it gets fixed. That will impart a permanent cost to fucking people about and breaking the game. Being happy to just prioritise DLC and allowing the game to break and be in this condition. And maybe they'll consider doing it a bit less. And this is something that we could end on here. What's the point and caring about a Warhammer 40k Total War or a Medieval 3 Total War or an Empire 2 Total War, if it's gonna work like this, where it's gonna just be a DLC pipeline and where the game is gonna be broken shit, what is the point in caring about that? I don't see any. And that's where the apathy comes in, I suppose. If you're glad I'm here and making these videos, then support me on Patreon. You're a big part of why I even bother to do this, seeing as I never do show links or product placement, sell out things. I don't do any of that stuff, never have. So patrons are really appreciated. I give monthly update posts and whatever else I can think of in return. Special thanks to Nathan Black.